What's happening? This is Andy coming to you again from my Daily Fun Club headquarters, and I just got back from a little playing vacation down in Belize. I was in Key Calker, an island about an hour off the coast of Belize and the Caribbean, and it was absolutely beautiful. And now, you know, I'm back home and back in the swing of things, and today I want to do a little tour of various Nordstrand P Bass pickups, and just I have kind of one of each or one or two of each nowadays, and I thought it would be fun to do a little comparison of the different models that Nordstrand offers. I've been very, involved with Carrie and everybody at Nordstrand for a couple years now, and I just adore everything about the brand and their products and the people that make them. It plays a big part in it too. So I have many instruments that have Nordstrand pickups and preamps in them. But today I just want to talk P basses because, I love P basses. It's also no secret that, the P bass is my favorite of all the bass guitars. It was the first one I got when I was a little kid. I was 12 years old when I got my first bass, and it was a P bass. So that's the one that I've always loved the most of them all. It doesn't mean I don't love them all, because I certainly do, and I have many to prove that, but the P bass is just my favorite. So what I'm starting with is the PowerBlade, which I have loaded into this instrument, which is a 1976-77 Aria Pro primary bass, which is one of the Japan era P bass copies from arguably the best batch. It's the Matsumoko factory in Japan in the mid-late 70s. They were putting out some of the best and most identical P bass copies to date. And now they've gathered a bunch of years, they've gotten old, and they're very, very good. Anyways, this is the PowerBlade, which has, rather than poles, it has a blade style, and it's a completely passive, and just a volume and a tone. So that first section that I played, I had the tone at about 90%. I'll crank it all the way up for a second. Very sassy, bright, clear, and punchy. Now I'm rolling the tone back to 50%. Sounds fantastic, and this one, of course, has a maple fingerboard on it. So let's move along. You might want to make some popcorn, because this is not going to be a short video. Alright, so let's go to the NP4A. Or no, the NP4. Regular NP4 vintage correct P bass pickup. This is one that's going to be voiced as closely to a kind of a traditional P bass sound. Now this one I have the pickups farther away because I like to really dig in on this bass. So the decrease in volume that you heard is because I have the pickups really sunk down into the bass. So I just compensated with a little bit of volume. this instrument is a Warmoth Premium Parts built donor design from Chicago, and it has a rosewood fingerboard and a mahogany body with a maple top. Do this one again. This time I'll turn the tone down to halfway, play that same bass line, something like this. A little less tone. So that's the NP4 Vintage Correct. You know, there's other things that are influencing these. This one has a Babbitt's bridge on it, which is quite a bit more high mass than the first one I showed you. The bridges play a role in it. The wood plays a role in it. Definitely the fingerboard material plays a role in it. So, but you get the idea. Okay, so now we'll go to the NP4A. This is the one that has the angled pole pieces in it. And this is another instrument that's built with Warmoth premium wood parts and the Hipshot USA hardware. But that's what the pickups look like. It has the Nordstrand kind of signature angled pole pieces. With the tone turned halfway down. Now this one's maple neck, maple fingerboard, maple body. I mean maple top on a swamp ash body, and you know, I think this one's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more open. It's real sassy. And it's got kind of a ramped up low mid bite. You know, it's got a bitey low mid bump in there. Okay, moving along. That was the NP4A. Now, so those are the three main P bass, straight up P bass types. Now I want to show you another instrument. This is one that Carrie and Mo modded for me, and it's one of my favorite basses of all the basses that I have. It's another one of those vintage Japan mid-late 70s Fender copies. This one's by Univox. But this one we did something real special, and we added the BigMan pickup, which is a dual coil with the angled pole pieces. Big old humbucker right there in the sweet spot. this one is strung with flat wound strings, my signature flat wound strings from Black Diamond. It has a rosewood fingerboard, and I think this is a alder body. This one has a really cool 2-band boost-only preamp, but I'm not using it right now. I have it in passive mode. As you can see, it has a push-pull, so I have it pulled up. It's in passive mode. But I'll show you just for grins what it sounds like with the preamp in. So you've got a ton of bass and treble right on board, and I utilize that. I definitely utilize that when I'm using this bass to perform, which I do a lot. This one gets a lot of action on stage because it's fantastic. And so that's something to consider, is taking a P bass and modding it with the BigMan. And by the way, this instrument, as of tomorrow, I'm going to swap out this BigMan and put in the Blade version of it, which is the Big Blade Man. And it's going to drop right in there, and we're going to hook it up, and we'll see what that sounds like. Another one I wanted to show you. This is fun, huh? I'm lucky I've got all these great basses with all these fantastic Nordstrand pickups in them. I think they all sound, you know, just killer. And ultimately, you know, I sound like me. My goal is to sound like me on whatever instrument that I'm playing. So they all have little subtle differences and little personality traits. I'm not so much of a real shooting for a wide variety of different types of sounds in what I do. I kind of like to sound the same pretty much consistently because I like my sound, the sound that I've kind of come to use over the years and establish. A lot of it's coming from my hands, and you know, when I play, they're gonna sound similar. I like that a lot, but I do notice the little subtle differences in them, in their tonal personality. I'm not like a knob tweaker and EQ kind of guy. I like to keep everything pretty much flat. And these days I've been really into passive kind of stuff. You know, I like having the active preamp for certain live situations where if I'm kind of starving to hear just a certain thing, I need a little bit more bottom. Usually it has to do with wanting to round out the bottom a little bit, and that active control comes in handy for me for that. But I'm definitely not the type to hype and really crank up the any kind of onboard preamp on any bass, because just from a technical philosophy that I adhere to, all it does is it just creates too much. It slams the front side of the amplifier, and it slams down the DI box and hits the desk too hard, and then they end up padding it. So everything that you're sending them, they end up cutting down the line. And just trying to salvage some kind of usable sound because they're getting too much. The amp's getting too much. It's working, you know, it's having to decipher all that EQ that's being put into the preamp stage, and then the front of house guy gets this sound and it's all boom and sizzle. It can be, let's just say. So, you know, these kind of real straight passive, you know, or even flat kind of a signal that is sending that down the line, all the way down the line, a lot more can be done with it in a beneficial way in terms of how it sounds in the complete synergy of the band mix. Okay, now the last one I want to show you, oh no, there's two more, is this is another one that I just put in a set of the PowerBlades, which is what I did in the first bass, the Aria Pro. But this one is from 1983. It's a Fender Squier P Bass. This comes from the first year that they introduced the Squier series instruments back in 1983, and it was a transition period during Fender. They were struggling big time. A lot of people will know that anything after 78, 79, there was a few years there where Fender really struggled in the United States, and at that time they started a Japan production, and that really saved the brand. The guys in Japan were able to keep the quality up and lower the price and make it still within an affordable range, and it helped them to build another factory in California, and then from there they're able to get back on their feet. So this Squier series that they introduced at that time was made with really good quality stuff, the wood, and it was it was an affordable option to have a Fender bass, and they were really good. And this is a perfect example of one. And the reason that I bought it is that it's identical to one that I bought in 1983. I bought an identical Squier black on black Squier P Bass for $249. The House of Guitars in Rochester, New York, the great House of Guitars, 645 Titus Avenue. And yeah, I bought that, and I loved that bass, and it was identical to this one. So when I saw this thing, I was snooping around online like I always am. I saw this thing, I was like, oh wow, I gotta buy that. So I paid $4.99 for this a couple weeks ago, which is exactly twice what I paid for my new one in 1983. But I feel like I got a fantastic deal because of the quality. I did some mods to it right away as soon as I got it. My friends at Hipshot sent me the Kick-Ass Bridge, which is their kind of modern, updated version of the Leo Quan Badass. It has these nice brass saddles inserts in there, which are what really sets it apart from a traditional Leo Quan that you would have to actually file your slots into. I never really liked that concept at all. This has got brass inserts that go in there that are adjustable. Put on some Hipshot USA Lollipop tuners, and then just this morning I popped in a set of the PowerBlades. And here's what it sounds like. I think it sounds fantastic, and these PowerBlades, I just love them, in both the basses. This one's a little bit different, slightly different, like I was talking about before, slightly different character, because this one's an alder body maple neck and a rosewood fingerboard, as opposed to the maple. Let's hear what it sounds like with the tone rolled down to halfway. What's cool about this one is that they utilized the 1960s shallow C neck shape on it, so it's kind of like a 62 reissue. In fact, it's a lot like one. So in the left hand, I sanded the lacquer off of it. I'll put a couple, play it for several months and get some oil, some hand oil into the back of this neck. And it's feeling like an old bass. It's feeling like a really old bass because of the neck shape and the rosewood board.